Welcome YouTube. This is Vino 511 TV, and today we have a special guest that you cannot see, but you can hear. Goes by the name of Rel 112. Rel 112, introduce yourself.
Rel 112, most notably known as 112. Rel, we are actually biological.
All right, I'm gonna need you to speak up because it's not coming in clear. So can you try that one more time?
I said I'm most notably known as Rel 112. It's Rel. Most usually, we are actually biological cousins, and I am here to give my perspective on certain social events that are going on.
All right. Well, today's topic is Saweetie and Qauvo. We're going to discuss what we saw, what we think, and how we feel about this situation. So, as the host and as the guest, I'll allow my guest to speak. So, after seeing the Saweetie and Qauvo situation, how do you feel about it?
I think overall, I feel that these are two human beings that are in the middle of tense relational circumstances. Clearly, their relationship isn't at a place of peace and optimism, and I think that this isn't necessarily something that should be subjected to the category of domestic violence or domestic dispute, if you will. But I think that it's being over sensationalized to be subjected to the category of domestic violence. I think these are two people that aren't necessarily on a great page. And unfortunately, cameras caught them in the midst of that space. And they both are aggressively trying to stand their own ground.
All right. Well, you said it's being sensationalized. My perspective is this. I do agree with it being sensationalized since these are two somewhat high-profile celebrities, especially in the hip-hop community. But I will say this. I feel that although you can tell that she wasn't necessarily severely harmed, there was a sense of aggression that just made me feel uncomfortable. Like, it appears from the video that she was trying to leave and de-escalate the situation. The video doesn't give context of what happened prior to them arriving into the elevator, but definitely something happened to where she felt she needed to get away. And Qauvo at that point grabbed her, and whether on purpose or inadvertently, she was wound up on the floor of the elevator. And then if you notice in the video, he looks to see if there's anyone watching in the cameras. So clearly he felt that he did something wrong. So my perspective is this, like, in a situation where you're having a disagreement with a woman or a lady for that matter, if she chooses to leave and walk away, you should allow her to leave and walk away. And I feel it, reverse too. Like if a man and a woman is arguing and the guy wants to leave and walk away and the woman is impeding his progress to leaving and de-escalating the situation, she's just as in fault as if a man were to do the same.
Okay. I don't entirely disagree with that. I wouldn't say that I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that we have to give some level of credit and some level of notion to, or some level of respect to what the notion behind him intending to prevent her from leaving the premises under such emotional stress. What is all of that about? So the video obviously doesn't provide a great sense of context as to what was transpiring prior to. All we have is them in the middle of a tussle. But I don't think that personally, from what I can gather, that Qauvo is if I'm limiting my analysis to this particular video, I don't think that Qauvo is somebody that is particularly abusive to this woman. I just think that this is, in his way of de-escalating the situation by keeping his woman within confines of his personal control so that they can at least verbally de-escalate whatever's going on between them, instead of each party deciding to, under stress, retreat from the situation. And I've been there personally, not necessarily with physical force being implemented, but like in the space where, like, okay, we're obviously at odds, but we need to figure out what's going on between us before we decide to just disperse, particularly under emotional stress.
Well, I take issue with it being that it's against her will. Like, it's one thing to have a disagreement and you guys are in a space and someone is avoiding the conflict, right? Like, I guess that is very common, and we probably all have been through a similar situation. But at the point where you're physically holding her against her will, like, that's why I feel he crossed the line and he let the emotions get the best of him. And I always say, like, no matter, and judging myself as well and having experience with situations like that, no matter how harmless you or the intent might be, from the outside looking in, and why people were so outraged by this, is that it always looks bad, right? Like, even if you just see them physically even if you see them verbally arguing in the same space, and you don't hear what she's saying and you don't hear what he's saying, just given the fact that he's a man, he automatically is assumed to be the aggressor, or the one who's causing the conflict. So, from a distance, I understand why people have this perspective. But I would say they both need to learn how to have that emotional maturity to themselves. One, if you do have a issue with a significant partner, then you should at least try to iron out the issues, in a mature way, and not just avoid and try to run away from it. Given, I'm just full speculation of, let's say they disagreed on something and she didn't want to deal with it and she wanted to get away. And also, like, he has to give her the space to leave. If she to physically hold her from leaving I still find that to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I agree that the optics are, work adversely in his favor. But just from a realism standpoint, I get the situation. I identify with the situation. And it isn't to label anyone as right or wrong, but I'd be being a hypocrite if I didn't say that I can immediately identify with the situation and just being in the heat of the moment and responding without thinking. And I think that both of them alike in that situation were responding without thinking, particularly to their personal circumstances, right? So, like, Qauvo particularly is a high-profile human being.
Right.
Saweetie is someone that, maybe you wouldn't label as high-profile, maybe not an A-list, maybe not B-list, but maybe C-list, but enough so to where she's also known to a certain demographic, right?
Yeah, she's definitely popular due to her relationship with him. Like, let's address the elephant in the room. Like, that's definitely the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think that she's built a certain level of notoriety for herself independent of being in a relationship with him, just with her musical success from singles like Tap Out and Back to the Streets. But I think that neither one of them were necessarily thinking about what the repercussions of their actions would be, particularly to the optics of it, of them being semi-high-profile celebrities. But I can identify with just being reactionary rather than being like logistical and thoughtful about, okay, well, how does this look? What are the optics? I do agree that maybe Qauvo should have just fell back and let her go. But just limiting the conversation or the speculation to the subject of, is this an abusive type of situation? I don't think that this is an abusive situation. I just think that this is unfortunately two young individuals caught on camera, not really caring too much of a fuck about the optics of their circumstances. Okay. But I don't think that he's an abusive human. Based on this information, I don't think that he's a particularly abusive human to her and, pre-existing to this video. And I don't think that we should scrutinize him on that level. I think that we should hold him accountable to making better choices going forward. But I don't think we should hold him accountable and speculate to the fact that, hey, you're an abusive man in this relationship, and maybe this is also why she wants to leave you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we'll both disagree on key things in that conversation. But I also want to stick to Saweetie and Qauvo, and just judging on their relationship, like just judging their relationship from the outside, and thinking about how it was glamorized. Like, she did make the song, and she's talking about, the Birkin bag, and she wants 8-figure nigga and all this stuff. Like, would you consider their relationship something to model after?
No. Well, I'm only saying no based on what she's communicated and articulated her standards to be of the man that she can be with, or vice versa, not be with. Okay. Like, I don't think that it's particularly fair or reasonable to say that, a nigga that earns less than 8 figures isn't somebody that you can, be with. I think that that's unreasonable.
It's unreasonable. So do you think that she's overvaluing or overestimating her worth? Especially in the dating market, like, as far as what type of men, who would be making 8 figures that she would be able to attract outside of the entertainment world?
Overestimating her worth? I mean, I think that if you as a woman, you as a man, whatever, you feel like you're worthy of being, in a situation where that is your financial dynamic, that's fine. I'm not going to scrutinize you for that. But I do think that if you're limiting your dating pool to people that are earning 8 figures, the reality of the situation is that people in the real world don't, like, a good salary in the real world isn't limited to 8 figures. A good salary in the real world is 6 figures. Whether it's low 6 figures or high 6 figures, it's 6 figures. That's a reasonable, livable salary. So if you're saying that you've got to have a man that's earning $10 million or more, I mean,
the percentages is even lower.
Especially that's not
the type of woman that she portrays herself to be, right? Like, would you consider, like, can you see Saweetie with a black version of Jeff Bezos?
I don't even know what that would look like.
Right? Like, I mean, outside of our entertainers, right? Like, could you see her with a black CEO who might be potentially making $10 million or better, or just close to it?
I mean, I think that if you're highlighting like one of the key factors and one of the key contributors for you to be invested in a relationship as salary, and if it's seven or eight figures and more, then I mean, I would feel like you're limiting your dating, limiting your dating pool to the entertainers of the world, whether that's sports, music, movies, or music.
Right.
I mean, well, music or movies or whatever. But if you just want somebody that's like reliable and reputable, like, you know, they're earning good money, they're responsible with their money, they have good investments, they have investment properties, you know, they have a good investment portfolio. Like, if you just want somebody that's doing well for themselves, I don't think that 8 figures needs to be it. I think that 8 figures is a bit, you know, it's like, so I'm not going to say it's unnecessary, but like, it's unreasonable. So, yeah, so if I just had to guess, then subconsciously, yes, you are limiting yourself to a dating pool of people in the entertainment world.
Right. I agree. I totally agree with that. Like, I feel like there are a small percentage of men. There's a small percentage of men who make 6 figures, right? Like, you know, we know that the average salary in America is about between 50 and 40,000, right? On average. Yeah. And about maybe 15% earn over 6 figures.
Yeah.
So that number even decreases less when you get over 500,000, you know? So for somebody to be making 10 million, like, that has to be like less than 1%.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even the highest earning attorneys and surgeons and doctors don't earn $25 million a year. Like, it's just not the practical analysis to make. So, you know, like a LeBron, who is like a super elite fucking anomaly of an athlete, you know, yeah, but like in general, your highest skilled, most qualified attorneys, CEOs, doctors, surgeons aren't making what rappers and athletes are making in a show.
Nah. I mean, their money comes differently. And I think that's why a lot of entertainers spend the money, how they spend their money. Like, a lot of entertainers can get about 10, 15,000, in some cases more than this, just to simply walk through a club, right? Like, as opposed to somebody who has to, you know, one, educate themselves, or one, work, put in hours, 60, 70 hours, you know, in a pay period, just so that they can, you know, make that type of money or close to it. And they doing this for years, as opposed to, you know, like an entertainer who just, the money kind of comes quickly. And bridging off of that statement, I just saw something recently on World Star Hip Hop, where you have Jeff Cardone, who's like a well-known real estate person, investor, and he's talking to I think Rich the Kid, the rap artist, and Rich the Kid is going on about, oh, you know about this new Corvette? It's only like $70,000, and Cardone is like, listen, bro, like, you getting your money too easy. You have to, you can't, don't worry about that. Like, that 2021 Corvette is not going to mean anything 10 years from now. You know, like, take that 70,000 and invest it in something that's gonna make you money in the long run. So I feel like, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I feel like, you know, a lot of our people, and when I mean our people, I'm talking about the Black community in particular, and even in other communities they do it as well. But I'm just speaking specifically to the Black community, that we tend to spend money that we don't necessarily have. And when we do have it, we're not investing our money so that we can spend it later.
I think that when you're having a conversation between a real estate developer and an artist like Rich the Kid, who probably isn't, a top earner as it relates to his particular profession, it's a difficult conversation to have, particularly when you're having that conversation with a young kid who doesn't have any real education, who is literally getting $40,000 to lay a verse. You know what I mean? So I think that, like, when you have somebody that's getting 40 to 50 grand to lay a verse, 16 bars, which might take them 30 minutes to write.
Or less.
Yeah, sometimes less.
Right.
They're getting 50 grand to lay a verse. Lil Baby, take for instance, right? Lil Baby is arguably one of my favorite artists personally right now, and one of the most effortlessly talented artists as it relates to his pen to pad game. He may be getting $50,000 for a verse, $60,000 for a verse, plus $150,000 for a walkthrough. So I think that it's difficult to have that conversation with a person if there's ego involved. If you're intelligent and you're responsible as it relates to information retention, then you're going to listen to your elder statesman, right? But, like, if you're somebody that's particularly immature and you're just kind of like, oh, nah, like, you can't have this conversation with me because I just made $250,000 for writing 3 verses and doing 2 walkthroughs, and I only did that in 3 days. Where you're talking to me about how much you might make off of 3% off of $1 million house deal, which is $300,000. But what's the likelihood of you being able to sell multiple $1 million houses in a week and making that 300? Like, you know what I mean? So they're gonna weigh their credibility and their current status against, like.
Yeah, I think they're looking for instant, gratification. I think that's what.
But they're getting that instant gratification. That's what makes it a difficult conversation.
Right. That's what they're looking for, that instant gratification, and they don't want to necessarily do it for the long haul.
I mean, I think that. I just think it's a difficult situation. I think that some of the artists out there are intelligent. Like some motherfuckers are just dumb. Like some motherfuckers that caught a wave, whether you want to consider Chingy and Bobby Valentino, Memphis Bleak, Cannabis, like some of these niggas that had it for a second.
Our younger viewers are not going to know who the hell Cannabis is. But I urge you, if you're into battle rap, by any chance, or old school hip hop, I urge my viewers to go check out Cannabis. He was a very talented battle rapper in I would say the late 90s.
Yeah, who challenged LL Cool J on his own song. But yeah. I think that there's certain niggas that was just super nice, whether it was in the R&B space or whether it was in the rap space. Like, it was super, super nice. They had a run. Even Fetty Wap.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Fetty Wap had a run where he ran the summer for like 2 years. But, do I know if Fetty Wap is broke and he's working at Target? No, I don't know that. But, like, maybe he has investment properties. Maybe he has certain endorsements that are giving him significant capital annually. I don't know. But I think that it's just, no matter how you slice it, it's just difficult to have that conversation when you're talking to somebody. Because most people only are receptive to information from people that they feel like they can trust to be in a situation that they aspire to be in, right? So if you're a broke nigga trying to tell me how to manage my money, or if you're a nigga that kind of squandered your opportunities on whatever it might have been, whether it was just being famous or whether it was being drugs or whatever the residuals of being famous are, then it's difficult for a nigga that's like 21 years old, don't got no college degree, don't got no high school diploma, don't got no GED, but he's getting $200,000 a week just to be him, basically. It's difficult to have that conversation. So to them, it's like, yo, bro, you broke. Like, what are you talking to me about money management for?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a difficult line to straddle. You know, I think Jim Jones is one nigga that like people undermine who isn't necessarily broke. Definitely ain't rich, Jay-Z rich or Puff rich, but like he's definitely somebody who he's not supposed to be here right now.
Yeah.
And it's because he's been creative and he's been able to reinvent himself and he knows the value of working relationships and stuff like that. So he has a lot of knowledge.
He also knows the value of investing, and I would say he's not fearful of failing. Right? No. Like he'll take risks and he'll try to do things to put him in a different space, whether he belongs there or not. So yeah, it's good to mention Jim Jones as somebody, you know, who definitely fits that mold. But, you know, for the sake of time, I want to wrap this up, and definitely we will continue to have further conversations. If you enjoyed this show today and the topics, we'll have plenty of more that we'll discuss. So hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and we'll just keep grinding. You know, like if y'all rock with me, I'll rock with y'all. All right, we out.